Hello, this is Captured in the Psych Ward, episode 11. And today it could be a bit of a tricky one, so I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy the actual storyline. You see, Ron's grandfather died 10 years ago, and he was having these weird nightmares as he was sleeping on the couch. And suddenly the phone rang at 4:30 in the morning. And it woke him up in a way that he fell off the couch and ran to the phone. And it was the hospitals. And an 8-year-old boy was rushed into the emergency room who had bipolar. And yes, he was saved. But he started to have these weird delusions that Ron was his grandson. And yes, he demanded that the hospitals call up Ron Cooper. And when Ron arrived at the hospital, the staff brought him to the operating theatre. And Ron said, "Hi." And the boy said, "Hello, grandson." And Ron said, and Ron was shocked and said back to him, "No, buddy, I am not your grandson. I am older than you anyway." And the boy said, "He is Abraham Celia, the spiritual Buddhist leader's son. And he told me that Ron Cooper is your previous life grandson." And Ron said, "Okay, you're Buddhist. Well, they are very peaceful. But what makes you say I am your grandson?" And the boy said, "Well, my dad said he has the power to put a doctor's grandfather in his wife's uterus to keep seeing them." And Ron said, "No, I know nothing about your father's beliefs, but I know reincarnation has something that nobody can guess. But I would love to hear more about your beliefs." And the boy said, "No, Dad said no son of mine is ever going to the psych ward." You see, that is the nut house. And being a Buddhist, I mean that in the nicest kind of a way. You see, Ron Cooper is my grandson, and the boy shared this with everyone. And Ron went to the HDU to get Pete, who had these delusions that Jesus has healed him. And the beliefs that came from an 8-year-old boy were better than this messed up old man. But Pete wanted to actually know how he knows that for sure. He is only 8. Then his Buddhist father said he had voices that no kid has ever heard before. And Ron asked him, "How much TV do they watch?" And the father said, "I try to discipline them about what they watch on TV, but I'm sure there is nothing on between 3:15 and 5:15 that I don't want them, and I don't let them have a TV in their room because TV can spoil the aura of a child's belief." But then Ron said, "It is a great way to see kids with an imagination, and TV is good for that." And the Buddha said, "Yeah, mate, yeah, imagination is great, but being good in a spiritual way is greater. So I want to find out about your grandfather, because I don't want my son growing up fighting me and breaking Buddhist code and be disrespectful." And Ron left him and took Pete back to the HDO and told Pete that not everyone has the same beliefs as you. "I was trying to tell you that yesterday." And then went into the HDU, and Charlie said, "Howdy, partner." And Ron said, "Howdy, mate. How did you sleep?" And Charlie said, "Fine. How did you sleep?" "Well, the Buddhist said my grandfather is an 8-year-old boy on the operating table." And Charlie said, "He is crazy, eh?" And Ron said, "He is as crazy as you, saying you are silent movie actor Charlie Chaplin." And Charlie said, "But I am. Buddha said in a dream a few years ago that I was Charlie Chaplin. And I lost my kid at the age of 23. And I was devastated. I mean, I was 23 and he was 6. Mind you, Ron, Buddha told me my kid is too much for me and my wife to handle. And Ron said, it's hard to lose a child, and the new foster family thought so too. And Ron, thinking he lost his kid through death, and said, have you thought of trying to find your kid? And then Charlie said, I broke off with that bitch and started to have visions of being Charlie Chaplin. And I have no idea of if I ever want to see him again. But if you can find a way, I would go with you. Mind you, it might give me closure, because really, all I did back then was just drink beer in front of the television, watching a footy. I was at the MCG for the 1996 Grand Final when the Kangaroos beat the Sydney Swans, and I cheered and partied all night with the Roos. And when I got my kid, I said, one day I will take you to the Grand Final. One day. But we never made it, and it looks like we never will. And I have been in this bloody psych ward for so many 3-week stints, because I really want to be with my son. The adoption agency keeps fucking me around, and it drives me fucking crazy. Ron told me, what is your real name? If you feel safe enough to tell me. And Charlie said, it is No Gordon Smile. But I hated that name as a kid. But I grew up to like it. But when my kid and wife left me, I said, fuck no, Gordon Smile. That name, as a kid, I am Charlie Chaplin, and I am a real person. And I really did do a silent movie. My parents tried to get me into groups of today's silent movies, and I enjoyed them. And that is why I am Charlie Chaplin. And Ron said goodbye and clocked off and went into the coffee shop and had a milkshake and cappuccino, as well as a vanilla slice. And Fran said, how was your day? And Ron said, this kid was brought into the emergency room, claiming to be my dead grandfather, and his Buddhist father gave me a Buddhist teaching. And I found out Charlie Chaplin's new name, who was another Noel. And he had a kid taken from by an adoption agency, mind you. This man looks to me, he could be a great father. And he is heavily into Kangaroos Footy Club as well. But he gets out. I am shouting him to a footy game. I am promising that tomorrow. And Ron went home and half left over Chinese, and sat on his balcony and watched the cars down on the road. You see, he really had a change of heart, or maybe a spiritual change. But Buddhists really sunk in today. He sat there for hours and hours, looking really serious, which in hindsight, or in general speaking, is really unusual for Ron. Ron's normally trying to socialize, but today he just felt like sitting on his balcony saying the wonders of life. It's so peaceful.